Well, it's wild card weekend around the NFL, and here on Watch DA Live, we could think of nobody better to welcome on than a friend of mine, a guy that's joined me on my radio journey throughout the years. I know many of you have loved his visits to the DA show, so why not do it in crispy, crystallized 4K? It's the great Ian Eagle joining us from the NFL on CBS and Westwood One. Ian, how we doing?
Is that what we're in right now? We're in crispy 4K because I feel different. Weird.
It's crispy. Can you feel that? Yeah.
I can. Out of nowhere, I got the crispiness. Great to be with you, DA.
Well, we have crunched some numbers here, and when it comes to the AFC's Final Four, we have you tabbed for an amazing 11 games between these four teams. We have four apiece for the Chiefs and the Texans. So now check that. We got more than that. We got 13. 3 for the Ravens and 2 for the Bills. You may know these four teams better than anybody else in America. Congratulations.
Does that include radio and Korean internet or just television?
No, it does. It does involve Westwood One's radio broadcast as well. I don't think we edit in Korean TV.
Yeah, no, I feel very up to date on the teams that have advanced in the AFC. Certainly, you could make a case for any of these teams, given the fact that Houston has surprised everyone to be part of this. But there is something about this group. They are very resilient. They believe in one another. And even coming off our production meetings the other day with the Texans, I walked out of there, and this often happens. I walked out of there thinking this team believes that whatever's being said on the outside, they're not buying into. And D'Amico Ryans had the right message to his group. CJ Stroud said all the right things. His comportment was in the right manner. And I give everybody a puncher's chance. Kansas City has not dominated teams this year. I think Houston has at least that going into the divisional weekend, a team that's riding a confident wave.
You called the Texans and Chargers game on Saturday for CBS, and it looked like it was going to be a Chargers runaway early in this game, but Texans held it together, and CJ Stroud came up with a 3rd and 1,000,000 on the over snap or the snap over his head, and then that kind of turned around everything. And after the game, one of the game balls, D'Amico in the postgame said, this is about CJ and about his composure. What was it about CJ that you kind of sensed, or maybe D'Amico, when you guys had the meetings before that they had that type of vibe going into the game?
When I brought up distractions, CJ laughed about it. When I brought up underdog, he laughed about it, but not in a mocking way, more in a, hey, yeah, we're hearing this. We're aware. He didn't downplay. He didn't dismiss. He recognized that it was part of the equation. He understood how others around the NFL were viewing him and viewing the Texans as a whole. Now, this guy has been a very high achiever, obviously got so many plaudits in his first year. And in year 2, even though the numbers were not terrible by any stretch, we just kept hearing about sophomore slump and this team is missing something. They had the same exact record that they had in 2023. They just did it in a different way. They were 5-1 to start the year. And obviously they limped towards the finish line, got that win at the end, Tennessee, to at least feel something going into the postseason. But I just thought he was really consistent in his messaging, as was D'Amico Ryans. We also met with Joe Mixon, who came in with that experienced attitude. I've been here. I know this. Kept making the comparisons to 2021 and the Cincinnati Bengals, that team that shocked everybody and went to the Super Bowl with a second-year quarterback, with Mixon as a Pro Bowl running back, with a 10-7 record. So he just felt there were a lot of similarities between the two. And then Will Anderson Jr., he is just sunshine in a bottle, just upbeat. And I just felt good vibes from the team overall, and then it translated. But you're right, the way it started. And I think this happens, DA, not just in the postseason, but in the regular season as well. When a team doesn't step on the other team's throat, when they don't take advantage, the Chargers field goal on that first drive, drop passes, miscues. Okay, they get the ball back on the fumble by Mechie. field goal on that drive. It's 6-0. It could easily have been 14-0, and the whole crowd would have been taken out of the equation. Instead, it's 6-0. Another pick, as we saw from Justin Herbert, and the third down play that you alluded to. I think it just turned the game around. It shifted momentum.
You've seen the Ravens 3 times this year. They're going to get the Bills coming up in Buffalo this upcoming weekend. What Derrick Henry has added to the Ravens, it's so obvious that that it is a total difference maker for Lamar Jackson.
Yeah.
When you've been around this team, what have you felt, seen, observed over this year that makes the Ravens feel different than last season?
Conviction, a real belief that they have balance on their team, that they have Hall of Famers that they can lean on now. Flowers didn't play, as we know, in the wild card round, but a go-to wide receiver, a Pro Bowl wide receiver, which has not been the case in Baltimore during Lamar Jackson's run, even during Joe Flacco's run. There wasn't necessarily that go-to guy. They would spread it around, but now there's a feeling that you've got someone that you can really go to, that can handle the responsibility. And I do think how they have mixed in so many different pieces. Defensively, maybe they don't get as much credit as they used to, but you go player for player, and at every level of their defense, major playmakers, secondary got a lot of criticism, rightfully so. By their own admission, the secondary was not performing, and they recognized that they had to fix it. And you're seeing signs of that. Ball hawking defense, that's always been part of the equation, but now they're actually turning those into big plays, pivotal plays. And I think it's the team working in unison with one another. To me, they're the most dangerous team in the playoffs, believe it or not, even throwing Detroit into the mix just because of what they can bring on both sides of the ball, and because Derrick Henry has become such a difference maker and a friend to Lamar Jackson. Lamar doesn't have to do it all himself. They can establish the run in the line of scrimmage, and they can end you. They can get a lead, and they can pound the football, which we've seen time and time again this year.
So that's interesting. You consider the Ravens more dangerous to the Chiefs than the Bills?
I do. Love Buffalo. Love what they've done. I think they've done more with less. And obviously what they did against Denver, that's who they are. But I think Baltimore is the more dangerous of the two if you're going to go toe-to-toe in the postseason again in Kansas City. I know what the results said earlier in the season. I just think what they're doing today and the weapons on this roster, I would tell you that they are the more dangerous team and the more dangerous challenge.
Derrick Henry at the end of a season, especially in January, especially outdoors, he's going to play in Buffalo and then potentially in Kansas City in an AFC Championship game. Feels like none of those defensive players would want to have to stand in the way of that train. I mean, it certainly felt against the Steelers that there were Pittsburgh defenders that said, yeah, I don't really need this right now. Do you get that sense when you talk to people around the NFL?
It's a business decision. All these guys are big. They're physical. Damon, when we do these production meetings, it's either in the facility with the home team or it's at the team hotel for the road team. And look, I've been doing it a long time. These guys walk in the room. You've gotten used to the fact that these are impressive athletes. There are a select few that walk in that room, and you've got to do a second look. And Derrick Henry is one of those. We're like, how is this guy a running back? How does this guy run with the speed that he has, with the balance that he has, with the power that he has? Obviously, the stiff arm might go down as the best in NFL history. And you're right. Defensive players, really good safeties, hard tacklers, big hitters. You've got to make a split-second decision on how you want to approach it with Derrick Henry. And we've seen it. Guys have been embarrassed, including Pittsburgh and Minkah Fitzpatrick, who's a Pro Bowl player. That's probably the toughest in-space one-on-one setup that you can have as a defensive player, because he can make you look foolish.
Let's touch on the Bills as well, because this Buffalo team found itself in a bit of a tight game early against the Broncos and then just kind of pulled away. And you've seen the Bills a pair of times this year. You said they've done more with less.
Yep.
What's been the secret to doing that this year?
Josh Allen, his command is through the roof. I just think he is right now at that perfect moment, probably the nadir of his career, where he knows exactly what he wants to do, what the offense is trying to do, what the defense is trying to do against him, his ability, as we've seen time and time again, to improvise when necessary. But the difference this year, and we've seen it now, last couple of years, just not making big mistakes. He has gotten to the point where he is so savvy and he can wait to the last split millisecond to make that decision, walking the tightrope on the sideline, throwing a ball to the end zone, forcing one in across his body. First few years in the NFL, those were often interceptions, deflected pass, turnover, trying to get one extra yard, leaning in with his shoulder, ball pops free. Not the case anymore. So a lot of it has to do with Josh and his mastery of his position and his skill level, and then the trust that that team has in Coach Brady. And what I think, in my estimation, has been Sean McDermott and his evolution. I do believe he's taken a step back and he's gotten more involved with other aspects of his team. And I think it's benefited his bonding with the offensive players, his bonding with special teamers, with the entire staff. I give him a great deal of credit for recognizing some areas where he could improve, and we've seen that improvement, and it's played out in some big games. Those were always question marks in previous years. Big games, do you trust that combination? We're starting to trust them a lot.
Before we part ways, we want to know who else is on the second look list for Iron Eagle. We got Derrick Henry. Who else gets the second look? Whoa, what's going on here? This guy is impressive.
I would tell you all time, Jonathan Ogden just might be the biggest human being I've ever seen, where you did that second look of, is this guy for real? And he's that athletic. Eddie George comes to mind. That first time he walked in the room doing a Tennessee Titans game. And I thought to myself, whoa, Adonis, certainly $1 million smile, the whole package. And the guy obviously ran with so much confidence and skill. I was blown away from a physical standpoint. Those three guys, to me, probably stand out amongst a large group.
And Sebastian Janikowski, number 4?
Sebastian, we never had in a production meeting. I don't know if we've ever had a kicker in a production. I don't think we've had a kicker, a long snapper, or a punter in all my years. I got to really think about it.
In that case, you're like, is that beer gut for real?
Dude, respect. Respect.
That's right.
For Sebastian Janikowski. And we've actually heard some John Gruden stories recently where maybe even more respect, considering the guy was having a good time out there.
Well, for appearing in crispy 4K tonight with us here on Watch DA Live, Iron Eagle will be receiving a bottle of Santo Blanco tequila.
Ooh,
this is Guy Fieri and Sammy Hagar's signature tequila. They have collaborated on this. It's delicious. We have sent each one of our guests this football season this delicious Santo Blanco, and the reviews have been raving from everybody. So one's coming your way, Birdie. And that's for the off season when you can finally pour one out and say, I can relax and just think about the second look, guys.
Amazing. So right now I'm going to Flavortown with that combination.
That's right.
It's amazing.
That's right. One-way ticket to Flavortown coming your way.
No,
courtesy.
I can drive 55 and will.
Iron Eagle from Westwood One and the NFL on CBS, kind enough to join us here on Watch DA Live. Thank you, Ian.
DA, great being with you. All the best, bud.